Hello and welcome to episode 352 of Picks and Ponies right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. You might be wondering, what the hell was that? What montage was that? That, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are new to the show, viewers, listeners, or at least new in the last, I'd say, 14 months, that was our old montage of me at good old Arlington Park and some bad videotaping and some other interesting things going on. Thought that was sort of fun to do. That was our old montage everyone just saw. So just thought I'd bring it back. Plus, at the beginning of the show was our my very first original sort of background that said Howard's Horse Handicapping with Santa Anita. Figured I'd throw that up there because, hey, we're covering Santa Anita tonight along with Hawthorne. So anyway, welcome to the show and welcome. Happy Memorial Day weekend to everyone out there. I just want to thank all of our wonderful military and servicemen for their service. And before I get started, I put this shout out on the In the Money Media Hawthorne blog that I have. But shout out to my nephew, Ethan, who is enlisting in the Marines in a few months. So very excited. He's been going to basic training in San Diego. So Ethan, wish you a lot of success, and I'm sure you can do great in the Marines. Of course, thanks to all our wonderful servicemen and women who kept and continue to keep us safe and strong in the good old USA. Please make sure you follow us on X there at H Kravitz. Also have sort of a new background there, a little new font. Just decided to mix some things up today. You can follow me on email as well, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Smash that like button as well below the video player and in the upper right-hand corner of the YouTube channel. Please make sure you hit that notification bell so that you know, of course, when new content will arise, because we have new content and exciting things going on all of the time. Let's go ahead and show a few other quick things. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Subscribe to our tip sheet below the video player. Power Picks tip sheet is still rocking and rolling. Click the show more button below the video player. Go to our great website, hhhracingpodcast.com, and we are on Instagram as well. Let me bring on my fantastic co-host first from the East Coast of Maryland, Mr. Pete Visco, and the Saratoga Special in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and huge Boston Celtics fan, of course, Mr. Paul Halloran. Guys, happy Memorial Day weekend. How are we doing?
Fantastic.
Did we recognize that montage? That was, I think you guys were co-hosts only for a little bit when we used that montage. I think we switched it relatively quickly after you guys became permanent co-hosts.
It's funny, I wasn't actually watching, so didn't even realize until you said it. I was looking down at something, and when you said it, I was like, oh, that seems short, but I wasn't actually watching, so I didn't even pay attention. But yes, the old one is nice with the little snapping in there.
I get the snapping, and it was
I like the snapping.
Weird, but
yeah.
Paul, good to see good old Arlington Park sometimes. It's weird seeing Belmont Park pictures now, like the grandstand pretty much being destroyed, and it is a little bit sad, but greater things to come in Elmont, New York, of course.
Well, yeah, I was going to say at least the New York Racing Association is replacing an iconic racetrack with a modern racetrack, as opposed to the hit that was put out on Churchill, on Arlington by Churchill. Yeah. Has any arrest warrant ever been issued yet for that homicide?
I don't think so. If you're in the golf world, we probably shouldn't be talking about arrest warrants right now, because what a crazy situation that was last week with the number one player in the world. Anyway, Raymond Cromley, thanks, in memory of living Patriot fighters, yes, for Memorial Day. I think there was one other comment by Michael Austin. Let me see if I can find it. Or I think I thought I saw something, maybe not.
There was somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. In loving memory of fallen veterans. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Guys, we got a lot to talk about. I want to jump right in because we're going to be covering the late pick 5 at Santa Anita. It's their big Cal-Bred Stakes day, and they have a monster weekend in Santa Anita. If the PPs were out, which is a whole other story, Paul, I feel like that relates to the clicking issues with replays. If you're Santa Anita, you got one of the biggest days of the year for Memorial Day Monday, and they have no PPs or entries even out yet, which is crazy. Anyway, but we are going to be talking. Yeah, I agree, Pete. Oh, okay.
Oh, bubble. So then it's a serious one. Then
Yeah.
it's serious.
We are going to cover late pick 5 at Santa Anita, and then of course we're going to cover Hawthorne. Emily Gulickson is here subbing for Jim Miller. It's great to see Emily's going to be here later to talk about the wonderful late pick 4 at Hawthorne. Guys, let's just jump right in right away because we, of course, a busy schedule tonight. We're just going to very briefly, and I mean very briefly, talk about race 3 and race 4. These are stake races on Saturday at Santa Anita outside of the pick 5 sequence. Guys, I'm not going to show the PPs. I'm just going to show the Equibase entries. The race 3, which is the first stake race today at Santa Anita with a post time of 2:06 Pacific times, the Thor's Echo. Of course, most of the races on Saturday, if not all of them, are for Cal-Breds. And this race, guys, I know it's only field of 5, but there are 2 serious sprinters in this race between the Chosen Vron and Big City Lights. And Big City Lights must look around and say, damn, you're back again? Because if Big City Lights didn't have to face the Chosen Vron all the time, Pete, Big City Lights would probably be $1 million earner. Big City Lights is like 300K plus, and the Chosen Vron, I think, is like 1.4 million. Anyway, it's pretty much those 2 again, it looks like.
Yeah, it's a cool race between those 2, except that it's generally just a 1-3. You're looking at it. If you were betting it, you're like, what am I going to get? 360 for the exacta, 320, 280. Can I just play that straight? Yeah, that's a shame. It's like affirmed an Alidar, basically. Like I would have had the Triple Crown. That's what Big City Lights must be thinking when he steps on the track.
Yeah, Paul, my only negative with the Chosen Vron, if I had to nitpick, is 2 things. The high weight of 126, but Big City Lights gets the same. I don't like the railed small fields, Paul. I've talked about this ad nauseum on this show over the years. Of course he can win. Of course he's the horse to beat. But when you got, Sawazdi's just his outside, who shows a lot of speed, Barros is going to break and have to make a decision. That's the only negative. He's just a really damn good horse.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Well, I agree with you on a few things. You do love talking about it, you almost as much as the weather and gallopouts. But I would say that if he's going to get beat in this race, it would be. I don't think he will, because I've tried to beat him several times, and as you can see by his PPs, I have been unsuccessful. But if he's going to get beat, I think it's the trip that potentially beats him. And what does that look like? It just looks like Big City Lights getting ahead of him and him not being able to go by him. But boy, I'll tell you, it's, you want to try to beat a favorite, and every time this guy shows up, and of course it's great that he's a gelding. We might be talking about him 2 years from now, still winning races. 17 for 22, a Cal-Bred that was bred to a $3,500 stallion. Hello, yes, you can strike gold in this game. And just on the page, I got the 12 race PPs here. The one loss that shows is to Elite Power, Gunite, and Nakatomi in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. That was a race. You take a shot because it was in their backyard. He had no chance to win it. But yeah, it's tough to knock. Although I do agree, this is a serious horse that Mandela has, and how would he, without the Chosen Vron, exactly, he would be undefeated because he has 4 losses and all 4 consecutively to the Chosen Vron. So yeah, it would be great to see these 2 hook up, Pete, like I'd say the quarter pole, 3/8 pole, and
that'd be nice.
Come home in a ding dong. That'd be great.
That would be fun. Yeah,
I would not be shocked if the Chosen Vron goes the Breeders' Cup Sprint at Del Mar. I mean, it's in California. I'm not saying he's going to win the thing. I'm just saying I think he's good enough where he can compete in that race. Winning, it's a whole other story. It's a long way away. We'll have to see. I tell you, something else that could beat him today: a moose or a tiger. Look out! I don't know if we've seen a moose and a tiger race together on the horse racing track before, but anyway, I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. Before I say something stupid, I think we just move on to race 4, guys.
I think we're beyond that. Yeah, I think that boat sailed already. Ship sailed or whatever.
Too late.
The Crystal Water is a nice stake. This is, of course, outside of the pick 5 as well. It's race 4. They're on the turf. I do want to mention the rail's out 10 feet. I don't think it's going to matter too much, but as the rail moves out, speed usually holds a little bit better. 10 feet should not make much of a difference. $100,000. This is a real nice race. It's a field of 9, and then Kings River Knight, the number 4 for Sadler Hernandez. It's just awfully good, even money. Attention, Matt Miller. What is the chosen Ron Kings River Knight double going to play, Paul Allen?
It's going to pay under even money.
You're probably right.
I'd say about 360.
Wire the field, Paul. You figure?
You know, Howard, in looking at the race quickly, as you instructed us to do, I said, geez, I understood the chosen bronze morning line. I said, geez, 1-to-1 morning line in this race. And, then I went through it and I went through it again. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I get it. Do I think, this horse is potentially as much of a lock as, ironically, he's probably could be more of a lock because the Frozen Run has to deal with Big City Lights that we just talked about. But I don't know. I mean, the 5's the second choice here. Glatz horse, who, 3 for 5 lifetime, won a non-state bred allowance. I always, even in the stakes out in these state breds, I always look to see if they've run in open company and how they did. And boy, the Kings River Knight put up his career best buyer in an open race last time. So, yeah, I think the 4 is going to be tough.
What you like too, Paul?
Tom, hold on a second, guys. Hold on a second. Tom, where the hell are you going? What? He just puts up picks?
He said he's probably going to watch the Celtics because the Warriors aren't playing tonight.
Go ahead, Pete.
He said somewhere, I think, that he had something going on, some family graduation stuff going on. He might have said in the early comments. So, Tom's usually here. So
more important.
I don't know why he can't watch the graduations are boring. I don't know why he can't watch the show during the ceremony. Get the phone on the middle
of graduation. I mean, come on, Tom.
Right,
seriously?
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, come on, man.
We'll let it go. Pete, do you know an old pal, and do you like an old pal in this race? I think he's interesting. Not a huge fan of Mike Smith on the turf. Sorry, Mike, you're just not the same. But this horse is progressive, and I think he could upset Kings River Knight.
Well, that's what you look for, the one horse in the race that's lightly raced enough and is still on the improve and came back at 4 with a nice increase from a buyer standpoint, from a time form standpoint, in open company, was able to close and win. So if you look at it that way, that's one that at least is on the up and up, on the upswing. So maybe, I mean, just from a figure standpoint, though, there seems to be a decent jump that this horse needs to make. And the cool thing before we go about Kings River Knight is he's one of those horses. He doesn't necessarily need the lead. He's shown he could pass horses. He could do a little. He's pretty versatile. So he's another it's 2 back-to-back, just really cool, mostly state-bred horses that, are pretty awesome. And probably the rest of the country doesn't see that much unless they follow the California circuit.
They're certainly worth our attention. They're some of the best horses in California, state-bred. So, I mean, we want to go through the race, but obviously based on the outside of the pick 5. And, that's a really good job by the racing secretary, Paul, because they know who the big favorites are, and they're trying to get some interesting fields in late pick 5. So I have no problem putting it earlier in the card if that's the reason, which is what I would guess it would be. So just shout out to the racing secretaries who are doing a nice job there. Guys, let's get to the late pick 5. The late pick 5 is really good. And I know you and I are going to both agree, or all 3 of us, that you better save money for that last race, because the last race, which is allowance race. I'm sorry, Paul, am I boring you?
Oh, no.
Just kidding, Paul. Just kidding. Last race old. Down the hill.
Just old. Yeah.
The minute Paul hears down the hill turf racing, it's like,
oh, I love it.
No, Paul loves the down the hill. Except
this race isn't down the hill.
No, I know. Let's.
Oh, this one isn't down the hill. You know what? I didn't even look at it. I just assumed it was and didn't.
Wait a minute. Isn't it race 6, right?
Yeah, it is. No, not this one. No. He was talking about the closing.
The down the hill race
leg. Yeah,
the down the hill race is the last race of the day, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were doing the pick 5 from the beginning, not backwards.
No, we're
my
going
bad.
Backwards today. Yeah, we're going to do it different.
Jesus.
Boy.
Okay, the
Franz Valentine. Off his game tonight, man. He's off his game tonight.
the Franz Valentine's a mile turf race, guys. Of course, it's for California-Breds, and it's a really nice field here of ladies. It's a field of 11. The morning line favorite is the number 11, Stay and Scam, at 5-2 for O'Neill and Gutierrez. Let's show our picks, ladies and gentlemen, and see what we're thinking here on the screen. And wow, I guess this is an easy race.
Ugh.
We're all going with Stay and Scam. We're all chalking out to start this late pick 5. But guys, it is certainly not quite as simple as that, as I'm sure we'd all agree. Pete, I'll go to you first. Let's talk about Stay and Scam, all of our top choices.
Yeah, just this was a horse you kind of wanted to beat, especially you got the outside post. It's the favorite. There's a lot of her. I apologize. Her best races are maybe sprinting, and now we're going the mile. Yes, apologies. Yes, drink there.
That was a pretty quick fix, though. I must say you were on top of that right away.
I was looking at it, and I was looking at Doug O'Neill's name, and he just popped in my head. But the horse, I mean, doesn't. I don't know. 2 for 7 at Santa Anita, so it doesn't always get wins. But the last 2 races were in grade 3s and ran pretty respectively in those 2. And now going back to the state bred where she's been, she's mostly been pretty good. So back in, I guess when you get some of these horses, when they're back amongst the company that they seem to fit better with, they just look pretty good and working pretty well. I don't know. I don't love the horse, but when I went through the field, this was I went through the field, I was doing ABC, and this turned out to be my lone A. So I was like, I guess I have to pick that horse on top. But I didn't love it once I did that.
Pete, you and I are complete simpatico on this race. This horse is the logical top choice, but I don't think she has to win, and she's from the 11 hole, and I'm going to try to beat her as well. By the way, before we move on, from Mark Bogaz, Paul, what's this? Love the Paul Halloran shout out on the Steve Bick Show? Paul,
well, he was talking yesterday about Willie Martinez, I guess, is going to retire. And he was talking about some of the good horses Willie had. And, Willie was a go-to guy for our friend Buff Bradley. And he mentioned a few of the races that he rode Brass Hat. So, of course, I had to text Steve right away and said, don't forget, he won the Massachusetts Handicap at Venerable Suffolk Downs on Brass Hat. At 4-1, I might add.
Here you go, Paul.
There you go, Pete. So Steve noted that on the air that I put in my plug for Suffolk Downs, as I always do.
Wow! Oh, so you did it in real time, and he
real time, yes.
And he gave you the promo there on real time. Wow, pretty cool.
Yes,
not promo. The
shout out.
What's the journalistic term, Paul? The not the reference. The I'm drawing a blank.
Let's move on.
Anyway, you know what, Pete? I love your second choice because I think this horse is absolutely fascinating. And whenever Matt Miller hears that, he's like, "Bing!" His ears just went.
Yeah.
Did
you do this before odds? Did you make your final picks before the odds?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Because when I looked at it, because I have the 3 and the 4, and I was like, oh, I didn't expect. I thought the 3 would maybe. I'm glad. I like the 10-1, but I thought it would have been a little lower.
Abhita or Abita, I'm not sure which one it is. I like this horse very much underneath, but I'm gonna let you talk about it, Pete. We both have the 3 in second here.
Yeah, the only thing, I guess my only question with the horse was, doesn't love to win. You see the 1 for 9 at the distance, 2 for 9 Santa Anita, the 2 for 13 overall. But it's a horse that she always runs her race. She's very good to hit the board, but she still seems to be getting a little bit better. She's back again in the company I think she really fits with. And if you look, we didn't show the time form of this one. I don't know if you want to pop it on the screen real quick, but there looks to be a pretty hot pace, at least per time form. So if that is the case, and you see where they have the 3 sort of sitting way back there, but if we get a hot pace up front, I think this horse has shown that she has the ability to pass horses and win, not just pass horses and hit the board. So especially at this 10-1 price, I really think this one just fits here in this company, and I think it's pretty live.
She's got 2 things I like a lot, and you just touched on one of them. The best closer in theory in a race full of speed, number 1. Number 2, this last race reminds me of like dynamic pricing, if you remember that replay, because Barros is really good, this was just a really passive ride. Abita is the 6 here, and I don't understand. In the stretch, it's like I don't want to say you didn't try with her because that's going to sound disrespectful. But watch, let's see, the 6 is on the inside there in the teal. First of all, this is a slow pace. Sure, she's saving ground the whole way. Obviously, that's a benefit, but there was never real sense of urgency. Like even right here, I mean, he's still just under a hold, and then Barris tries to come up the inside, and he gets like blocked a little bit. But like, look at the hands. Like, there's just no like sense of urgency. And even here, where like there's a seam, look at his hands. Like, now he's finally asking, and now she finally goes. And I know this field is much tougher, but now she blows by the winners. So we've seen this before. And actually, Pete and Paul, this kind of replay has been very effective on this show, where it looks on paper, you're like, man, it's sort of that's a 72. And some people at home are like, what are you talking about? Pete, there was a lot more to give. I don't know if it's good enough to win, but again, that's why I reverse tri-key. I see no reason why this horse can't clunk up for second or third in this race at a big price.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I had the note I had would be an excellent board horse, and that was before the odds. So that was waiting to see what the odds were, and then when I saw that, I was like, yeah. But I still think can actually win as well. The only thing that's weird is obviously we get the stakes races here, and a lot of these horses are losing Lasix, which we pound to the ground sometimes on here. But this horse hasn't run off Lasix in a while. A few of the horses today haven't, so you never know, but I'm not going to worry about that with a horse like this, especially when you're getting a price.
Yep. I agree. Sneaker, let's just quickly talk about this horse, Paul. You've got her second. Pete's got her third. Another progressive horse for Papa Bedromo, who this horse can have to improve, but it looks like she certainly can with Kyle Frey in the saddle.
Yeah, could I just mention that in that last race, Abita's jockey was not wearing teal. It was more like fuchsia.
Sure.
You said teal, and he was in red.
I did. That was more of a fuchsia. Yeah. It's actually, it's red.
Yeah, which is not like teal.
No, it's not.
Yeah, what is
I mean,
teal?
I hate to be Pete. Pete, I hate to be like this.
Actually, no, I don't know what
teal's
I was
more
thinking.
blue, right?
Teal's like
teal is the color of the 9 blanket. Except if it's Keeneland for a stakes race, in which case it would be not teal.
I'm off of school now. School ended yesterday. I'm starting out.
Yeah. Hey, you probably drank 4 or 5 before you came on the air. We get it.
I stopped counting at 6, but go ahead.
Yeah, Howard, I do. This horse is in form, and I did have the odds, Pete, to your question of Howard. And frankly, the 12-1 was appealing to me on this horse. I just think the horse is in form. His numbers they're off, but they're not that far off. And similar to what you guys are thinking with Abita, he's more of a board play for me. Now, I will admit that, the race flow, if per time form and per your guys' very good analysis, is probably much more favorable to Abita. But you know what? I thought maybe this guy could be very close on or near the lead and hang on for a piece.
Very nice. Look who's back, by the way, in the North America, racing downwind.
Wow.
He had a nice trip in Asia. Now he's in Vancouver. Wow, this guy's like a world traveler.
Welcome back. Welcome back,
Dave, and thanks for joining the show. We appreciate it, guys. Let's go on to the next race of the day as I do a little switching around here. Race 7 is an allowance race, optional, claiming 26 furlongs. Of course, it's for Cal-Breds. It is for the girls again. Some of them in for 20. Some of them are not. Please take note of that. The morning line favorite is the number 4, Dancing Cat, for Mr. Miller and JJ Hernandez, a lethal combination in California. 3-1 morning line. Let's see if we're going with the 4. I am. Pete and Paul are not. They're going with the 5. Paul, wish they all could be in California.
No, did Howard? I thought I had 6-1-8 this race. Did I give you the wrong thing?
It's very
I might have
screwed up. I don't know.
Yeah, 6. I had 6-1-8.
Wow,
this is the race 7, right? Yeah.
No. Oh, this is race 7. You know what? I put up the wrong. Wow.
You gave me race 8. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just put up race
That's
8
all right.
by accident.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
I'm going 142. Pete's going 216, and Paul's going 618. I'm sorry. I clicked on to the next
That's
race.
all right.
Paul, you got the 6 Whimsical Air for Glatt and Frey.
Yeah, I kind of like this horse. This is a horse who comes off a 10-month layoff, and very unsuccessful. They put him in for a tag, albeit a $50,000 tag. I'm sure they were fairly comfortable they weren't going to lose him for 50. Pardon me. And 2 impressive wins in a row. To whatever degree it means anything, Kyle Frey has ridden the 3-horse his last 7 or 8 races, and has only ridden this horse once and sticks with this horse, assuming he had the choice. That last race, albeit a claiming race, was against Open Company back in State Bred here. So, yeah, I'm just going to go with the informed horse at a decent number, 4-1.
Mentioning in the chat, Matthew Chimura, blinkers off. She's been razor sharp. I looked at her. I'm worried about the class situation, but she is razor sharp in this field, Pete. This race is.
Yeah.
I just didn't have a good feel for it. You're going to go with the 2 who I have in third, and I frankly wasn't sure what to do with. Tizzy Twister, got to say that carefully. I do like turnbacks. I'm wondering if this is too sharp for her. I've got her in third. I think she's interesting. I feel like this race has to sort of fall apart for her to win, though, Pete.
Yeah, there was a couple. Again, I was with you. I feel bad because this is 2 races in a row where it wasn't super confident in the picks. But I thought the couple things I liked that this horse was running well, seems to be in pretty good form, and now is in Papa Pedromu's barn, who first off the claim at Santa Anita, 31% wins, 52% in the money. It is obviously the top. If you look at time form, is the top late pace by a lot. The problem is there doesn't seem to be, at least on paper, a ton of pace to be closing into. Yeah. So I guess the question with this horse is, will she get the trip that, you see the 4 is supposed to be on the front. The 2 they have pretty far back. So I think if the 2 gets that trip, it's going to be tough. Maybe she can work out like the race 2 back where she was a little closer to the pace, and that might be helpful. But that was my biggest concern, is just the speed, because I think the 4 is a horse which you have in second, which we'll talk about, I assume, who may just get away with the pace advantage, and that's gonna hurt a horse like Tizzy Twister.
That was my thought. And again, for those people who are not familiar with Time Form US, that doesn't mean Pete is going to be wrong about this race, of course. But according to Time Form, you obviously don't want to be last in a race that doesn't have a lot of early speed. But I do think there's a lot of question marks here, Pete. I think it's a murky situation here. Some horses could go. So I don't know. This was a tough race. I defaulted to the 1. I'm not really proud of this pick. Irish Wahini, I actually think it's pronounced. I don't know. I mean, I didn't like her last time, to be honest. I remember the race. I think she knocked me out of a pick 5 that day. She's just in form also. She's 10 for 23. She usually runs her race. She's not going to be that far back, because even if it's a slow pace, guys, and she's not really a speed horse, but if it's slow pace, how far back is she really going to be? And, Ricky Gonzalez is pretty aggressive jock. So I do think the 4 is dangerous here. I don't love this horse in general. She seems a little slow, but Peter Miller and JJ Hernandez, this horse could improve a ton. And they picked this spot on this big Cal Cup day, Memorial Day weekend. Peter Miller's going to have his boys with him, I'm sure, his son. So, I don't know. This feels like she's working well. This feels like the one that could get loose and just win. I probably should have her on top, but I don't. Any other quick thoughts here, Paul? And then we'll move on to the next race.
No, I'm impressed that our Hawthorne guest is already in the live chat, though.
Yeah, asking about the 5. Asking about the 5, if we want to touch on the 5 real
about
quick.
The 5. Oh, let's up from Emily's here. The 5. What? Ooh, I like her profile picture. Intimidating. Which they all could be. I don't know. One of you guys want to touch on this one?
Yeah, I looked at this horse. I did. I looked at this horse a few times, and I'm going to have to figure out why I didn't have her in the top 3. Maybe the fact that the 1's beaten her 3 times out of the last 4 races.
There's a bunch of races back a ways that definitely would be near the top of this. It's just whether she can sort of get back to that, get back to that form. Hector Palma, 1 for 19, second after claim, so that wasn't great for me. So I was on the fence about this horse. Picks up Fresu though. That's nice. But again, I'm with you, Paul. The one seems to have this horse's number. So if you're on the one, maybe you don't need the 5.
But at 6 to 1, I'm not. I have no issue with anyone who wants to use the 5.
No, not at all.
I think that's an interesting pick by Emily if that's her top choice. Let's go on to the next race, guys. Race 8 is for the restricted 3-year-olds on the turf, a 1.8 mile, $125,000 stake. It's the Snow Chief, who was a very, very good California-bred. This is a field of 10 with a money line favor, the number 1, Shady Tiger, stretching out for what I hear is a pretty damn good trainer, especially on the turf, in Phil D'Amato and Juan Hernandez. Let's see who we are going with. I'm going 4-5-1. Pete's going 5-8-1, and Paul is going 5-6-1. So Pete and Paul are both going with the 5. Curlin's Chaos. Well, we know why Paul's going to go with Curlin's Chaos. So
even the grandchildren, Paul. Howard, the grandchildren, I play them too.
Why do you like this one, Paul?
Well, I'll tell you why. Exactly. This is a horse who, his connections, unfortunately, did earlier this year come down with that sudden illness that we talk about every year, DFS, Derby Fever Syndrome. So they had a horse who, and again, look at, it's hard to make the Derby. It's a once in a lifetime. I got no qualms with it, even though we have a lot of fun with it.
Hey, he acquitted himself okay too, Paul. At least he wasn't in there.
I mean,
it's not great, but it's not terrible.
He acquitted himself okay at Santa Anita, Pete, which was I don't know that 4th in the Sunland Derby I'm going to allow you to get away with okay, but I guess
I said.
Although Stronghold went on to win the Santa Anita Derby coming out of it, so and was part of our winning team in the Derby draft, Pete.
Yes, so we have no ill will toward.
But no, I just think they put this horse back on turf last time. I thought he ran well as a 3-year-old. Has the right to only get better. 2 for 3 on turf with decent numbers. That's why I picked the 5.
Paul, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or everyone for that matter, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in this replay are all coming back on Saturday. You got to watch carefully. And Curlin's Chaos is the 6. When you watch this race, Paul, he made this 3-wide move. He did get a good trip, but I do like his acceleration in the lane. I do want everyone to pay attention to one horse I'll mention in a second. But here's Curlin's Chaos winning the race.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Howard, in looking at it. It is a good trip, but he did kind of, when you started it, they were all kind of in a bunch, and they're not in a bunch at the end. And you say, well, it's only a length. Well, it's a length with 4, and there's 4 other horses behind, but it's a comfortable length in a turf race where they all tend to bunch up toward the wire. So I think it was a good trip, but I think a very good effort as well.
Pete, I do like the 4 coming out of this race, which we'll talk about. I realize the 4 saved ground the whole way. He's right here, and he did get a good trip. But I thought it took him a little bit while to get out, extricate himself from the inside. He's right here. And once he angled out, I do like the ground he made up. I think this is 2x4, if I remember correctly. And now he's trying to close like in between horses. And I don't know. I think this 4 had more run than it looked. I like him in this race. That's my top choice, by the way, right there.
Yeah, that was basically my next one if I had to put another one on. So I'm sort of with you there. But I agree with Paul pretty much everything he said about Curlin's Chaos. I like a horse where if you took away the dirt starts, the horse would look pretty good if you just looked at the turf form. So,
and Final Storm, you've got in second. Little Red Feather, what a win for Balnikoff. I didn't have that horse at all. I think the soft turf really helped him and hurt others. But Little Red Feather, man, I mean, again, Billy Cacho's guys just do a great job. And this is another one that did save ground the whole way. But Pete, if he can stretch out, and you would think by Blame and a Pioneer of the Nile mare, you wouldn't think that'd be a problem. Although I wonder why he hadn't stretched out yet. This could obviously be a player.
Yeah, that was the thinking was, and again, I hadn't seen the prices yet, but minus 6 to 1 when I think the field's pretty even for the most part. I don't think there's
Yeah.
really any standouts. And if you look at this one, did come off the pace, but does have the ability, at least sprinting, to not be too far off enough to where it's not going to be a problem, I don't think. And then again, you just want to see they put the horse on the turf once, gets a nice win, and you're watching it there on the screen, and you see sort of made a nice move there coming up the rail just to eke it out. But again, that was the first time on the turf. Now we're stretching out again. So if this horse maybe, and by the breeding, just looks like going longer would be preferable, I guess we'll see. It's one of those, it's sort of a wait and see approach. But I like the second, and it's in the hands of D'Amato. So it's not like it's some trainer who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And that's why they're just sort of switching around. Maybe got the horse and then said, let me try the horse on the turf. And now let me try the horse going long. And we'll see if he can improve even more.
I'm going to use him. I'm a bit dubious that he just got such an absolutely unbelievable trip and just saved ground the whole
Yeah.
way. And I didn't see like a blow by kind of win. It seemed to, I mean, he galloped out well, but I think the others were getting tired. I don't know. I could be completely wrong about this horse.
Yeah.
I sort of like 2x4 has gone distance already and faced what we think is the best horse in the race already. And so I don't know, but I like your pick because, again, if the 8 can get the distance, that horse is going to be a factor. Let's go to the next race, guys, the penultimate race of the pick 5. There's our picks on the bottom of the screen. This is the Millar Stakes. This is for the girls and their 3-year-olds going mile 16th on the dirt. Of course, it's Cal-Breds. Small field of 7, but talented based on the class level. It's for the most part, I think most people would agree, a 2-horse race between the 8-5 favorite number 4 Grand Slam Smile for Steve Specht and Frank Alvarado, and the outside horse, the number 7 Roberta's Love for Hector Palma and Juan Hernandez, who seems like we're saying that name a lot, guys. Juan Hernandez, he could have a monster day on Saturday. I'm going 4-1-7. Pete's going 4-1-7 also. And Paul's going 7-3-1. So Paul, as the quote unquote outsider, pun intended, you're going with the outside horse, Roberta's Love, who last time had Frankie on a day when he went absolutely nuts. I think he won 6 that day. She was not the favorite, but she took on all comers and won very impressively. Now she's got to stretch out.
Yeah, I agree with you on the 2-horse race thing, Howard. But I just I had it down to 4, and I just got a feeling that there's a chance one of them wins and one of them isn't around. So I then try to narrow between the 4 and 7, and decided that there's a lot of questions, right? The 7 is stretching out. The 4 is stretching out less, but is stretching out, and last 2 races are on synthetic and turf, although obviously is won twice on dirt. But I think the 7 will get a good trip from out there. It is a route, but being 7, the 7 is not like being the 10 or 12. So I just thought she had a chance to get the better trip of those 2. And as I said, I did use both in my pick 5 but for the purposes of the race, I wanted to pick one and not the other, so I went with the 7.
Any concerns here, Paul, with the potential fast pace? I guess one benefit is if that's true, and if you or others believe the 4 is the horse to beat, being outside of the horse to beat is always a good thing, at least in my opinion. And I don't see a lot of great closers in this race. It sort of feels like someone's going to be up close and win anyway, even though it's a fast pace on paper.
Yeah, I do think. I think the 2 could go. I'm looking at that time form, and I think the 2 is going to be very forward, and
I agree.
I could see the 7 sitting off either or both of those. But then we're going to find out. That's when those questions are going to have to be answered about these horses running this distance for the first time. But I do agree with you, Howard, that in a scenario like that, if there are going to be 2, or even 3 contesting it or laying right off it, I'll take the outside one. Yes, I agree.
The Sibs of the Dam, I mean, they have gone distance, so we'll see. I had a tough time deciding what to do with Roberta's Love. Obviously, the horse can win. Pete, you and I are going to go with the 4. And for me, and maybe Grand Slam Smiles slightly slower, slightly. I'm always going to default to a horse that's been 2 turns before. I think that's a major advantage. I do realize it was a turf race. I still think it's an advantage. I do sort of like they rested up for the spot also, because in theory, this horse could improve based on her previous efforts.
Yeah, and the one thing I liked, or at least the way I noted it, was that I thought the breeding suggested that this horse might even like routing on the dirt more than routing on the turf. So that was sort of the way I looked at it. And if that's the case, and the horse can sort of move forward a bit, and now you're talking second race at 3 off a layoff, I think if this horse does move forward and does take to the distance, then I think this horse is going to be pretty tough. Did run off a much shorter layoff, not actually much shorter, it's about a similar layoff few months, and ran maybe 1/7 off a layoff last time, so can fire off a layoff. You see the works have been pretty strong, even though they have all been on the synthetic. They've been pretty strong, so the horse seems to be in pretty good form. Spec 4 for 11, 7 for 11 going in the money. 4 for 11 wins, 7 for 11 in the money, going turf to dirt. So not a huge sample size, but pretty successful. So it looks like, and 2 for 2 over the Santa Anita course. So there's a lot of things to like, and the 8-5 price, unfortunately, reflects that.
Paul, I think you made a good point at the 2, and we're going to move on. I'd be shocked if this horse is not in the lead, because only one in America is one of 2 for Peter Miller, and the other one I think is going to sit. So to me, Pete and Paul, in a weird way, only one in America who I don't like to win this race could play a major factor in this race, because if she sends hard and makes the 7 work a little bit hard from out there, I think that'll help the 4. My gut tells me the 4 is going to sit in behind the 2 and the 7. We don't know. We'll see how the break is, but I just have a feeling the 2 and the 7 are a little bit quicker than the 4, or maybe they're just going to have more intent than the 4 early. I'm just guessing, of course, but hey,
I
that's
agree.
What yeah. You got to guess a little bit, guys, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the 7 sitting off the 2 with the 4 behind. I do agree.
Okay. That makes me feel better, because if that's the case, I like the 4 even more. But I think it's mainly a 2-horse race. We should have talked. You know what? I made it. This is a host fail. We got to talk about the 1 very quickly, not this one. I almost put this horse on top, the number 1 Safa, guys, because it does look like she can rate a little bit. She's 1 for 10. And even though she's the best closer in the race, in theory, I didn't love her for some reason. I could be wrong. By the way, lost to Sneaker, who you liked, Paul, I believe, in that other turf race. So we'll see how Sneaker runs. I almost put this one on top. I don't know. I just felt like it could be dominated by the speed. Any quick thoughts on Safa? And move on, guys.
I looked at the same thing, Howard. 1 for 10 with 6 seconds.
Yeah.
I thought you could play the 3 for a song.
Okay. Loretta Lynn. Yeah. I'm supposed to say, Pete, I'm supposed to rip on him for the bad joke or pun.
I was hoping that there was a little sarcasm when he made the joke, to sort of needle a bit. But
I'm going to stay
that was up
San Diego.
That was up your alley, though.
Or shall we say Arcadia?
But actually, though, real quick, as you mentioned the 1, if 4 to 1, if that price floats up and you want to play, say, a 4-1, and you think the 7 and the 2 and knocks the 7 out, if the 7 takes a little money and you're trying to just hit a cold exacta or something in a small field like this, maybe that's a way to go, because the 1 does seem to like to hit that second spot.
Let's talk about the last race quickly, and then we'll show our pick 5s and let Paul have his rant, and then bring on the wonderful Emily Gulickson. Tough race, guys. Down the hill allowance. This is not for it is for state bred. Sorry, I saw the Idaho bred, threw me off, but it is for state breds. Down the hill, 6.5. Huge field here. 11 in the main body. Bronco Nagurski, you right for this one, might tackle them if he gets in to the field, but I don't think he will, because the weather's going to be fine. Moorline favorite is the number 10, Left Hand Man, 7-2, Glatt and Frey. And that horse has only 1 race on turf, and it frankly wasn't very good. Very tough race. I'm going 9-6-10. Pete's going 9-5-2. Paul's going 9-5-6. It's so tough a race. We're all going with Eddie's last, who is 6-1 morning line for O'Neill and Gutierrez. Pete, just drop the mic and just show our pick fives, or why is this horse going to
So,
win?
yeah.
Like we all
I mean,
believe?
obviously, this horse is easy. A nice 2 for 12 or Paul 1 for 6 at Santa Anita. How can this horse not lose? I mean, how can this horse lose? It's impossible. I mean, I don't know if you want me to talk about this one. I guess
Never been down the hill, by the way. We're all going with this knucklehead also.
Well, it's also this is one of those races where you usually look for some horses who've gone down the hill, and there's really, I think, only maybe 1 or 2 that have. So there wasn't a ton of experience going down the hill. The only thing I looked at with this horse was came back at 4, 2 races at 4, lifetime buyer tops in each, lifetime, not lifetime time form tops, but back to where sort of the top end for this horse. Had a nice race 2 back, going 6.5, not down the hill. And then the last one maybe was just a little closer to a half decent pace than maybe he wanted to be. So maybe if he sits off a little bit more like he did 2 back, he'll have a little bit more kick late. So that's where I was going with. I thought there'd be a hot pace potentially if you look at the time form. It looks like there's some pace here. So I figured this one could sit off and be running late.
Yeah, we all agree the same. I mean, assuming the horse can handle the hill, certainly the Square Eddies can handle the hill. Noah Maher in the chat was about the 4. This was in the earlier races, guys. I think with the with 2x4, I think he's talking about. But I've taught the boss. He taught me. All right.
Wow.
Well,
I like
that. I like that.
We'll let the student think he taught the teacher. If that's fine.
I like the spunk.
It's all right. It gets a little frisky when it comes to West Coast bias.
Hey,
action,
it's his track, man. He knows it's his track.
Yeah, for sure. Eddie's last, Paul. Any thoughts there? We got the 5 and the 6 in the mix. This is a tricky race.
Yeah, and I would just say, I'll tell you what, I don't really. The 10 is, the Cap Burglar is a 7% turf root sire. There's a little turf breeding on the dam side, but not a ton. And as you said, the 1 turf race didn't work out well. So if this horse by any chance is going to be the favorite, I'm certainly, certainly want to be against.
But
that
Paul,
was actually
question. Glatt's 24%. He's having a great meet. Why put this horse in this turf race? Do you think there was nothing else from the racing secretaries in the book, and they just figure I'm going to go here, or they must feel like he can get turf, otherwise they wouldn't put him back on there, right? You would think.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean it is, because of it's not one of the stakes. It's still 55,000 though, but
it's weird.
Yeah, no, I mean Mark Glatt and he does very well with Kyle Frey, whose name we mentioned a lot tonight too. He also got a big day. Yeah, so again, I'm only going by what I could see on the pedigree side. I honestly did not watch the replay ran, but my point is, even having the 9 with you guys, the fact that he's 6-1 makes it a little better, right? That at least we're not swallowing chalk, taking this horse that we all picked that we could find a million reasons to bet against.
Funny that you mentioned real quick, Cap Burglar, the sire of the favorite, 0 for 16 wins in turf sprints and 2 for 42 overall on the turf. So it doesn't necessarily bode well. Like I didn't, when I saw the odds, I was like, oh, that one, I don't get that one, because that horse was basically a toss for me. And then I saw the odds, like, am I missing something? Is there something I'm doing wrong here? But
guys, Lemon Sushi can win. Actually, dropping back, I should drop, quote unquote, into state breds can certainly win. I don't love 6-year-olds in this spot, but obviously the horse can win. I'm going to use her. I'm going to use Leia's Candy for Rispoli, who I think is one of the better of the horse. They'll be sort of up close and had to rush up last time into an impossible spot. So I don't know. This is a race that I think we're going to feel the need to spread for sure. Let's go ahead and show our pick 5 tickets. I'm just going to show them so we can get to Paul's rant here. Let me do that. And I'm just going to read them off for everyone. Pete's pick 5 is 3-4-11 with 1-2-6 with 5-8 with 1-4-7 with 2-5-9, $81. No single there, Pete, but it was hard to find a single in the sequence, I thought. So
no, there wasn't one for me. The only one I was going to mention is that I had the 2 in that last race at 12 was one of the horses who ran okay down the hill. Actually had a third 2 back down the hill. So I figure maybe the horse likes the hill better than the rest of them. And if you're getting double-digit price, to close it out. Why the hell not?
This hill. This would be called a mountain here. But anyway, we don't see the hill that Pete is referring to. Paul's pick 5 is 1, 4, 8, 11 with 1, 6, with 1, 5, 6, with 4, 7, with 5, 6, 9, 10. So you are going to use the horse by Cat Burglar there, which is interesting. $96. No singles also.
Yeah, I looked at it. I think if you're doing it correct, what you probably would do is pick one of those two in the 9th and spread even more in the first and the last legs. So
I agree.
I just threw, Pete worded it the way that I was thinking. Am I missing something with this 10? And albeit I don't like him, in a race that's wide open, if he's going to go off as a 4-1 favorite, and in the unlikely event I happen to be 4 for 4, do I want to get beat on a decent ticket with him? So I had a ticket of 72, and Pete, I'm never going to go that low because I always I've been restricted by the budget of Uncle Howard for so many years that I'm always going to get close. So I figured out, screw it, I'll add one.
That wouldn't be the restriction that you ignore most of the time anyway. So would it be?
I'd say some of the time.
I'm big. That's fair to say. I apologize. That was a little harsh on my part. My pick 5, 1, 3, 8, 11 with 1, 2, 4, 6 with 1, 2, 4, 5 with 4. Paul, exactly what we were talking about there. With 6, 9, 10. I have no idea in the last race. I would spread more in the last race. The 7, Roberto's Love can beat me in the penultimate leg. But exactly, you read my mind, Paul. I just couldn't justify going 2 short prices. And then the number 3 in the first leg again is the long shot special, I think, of the sequence speed, if I may speak for you. And the number 3, a beta in the very first leg, one we talked about as a possible verse tri-key play. We like that horse quite a bit underneath, especially in the Franz Valentine.
Hey, real quick before you get to the rant, I didn't know if you were going to mention it. We're going to give a shout out to Kyle and Crownsway for Otago with the nice win today. I didn't know if you were going to.
I'm chuckling because it's Otago. And
I know. You know what? I thought it was Otago, and then I'm watching the race, and I was like,
John Dooley, but he messed.
I was like, man, am I been wrong the whole time? I was like, I couldn't remember if I was just wrong, and I hadn't really listened to the name before, but that was an exciting race. If anybody hadn't watched it, yes, it was a
congratulations to Cronway and Tony Rallo and Kyle Roscoe and everyone. We do not, the three of us do not have a piece of Otago, but we're always happy when the Crownsway folks win, and they got a lot of horses running this weekend actually at Churchill. I think they have 3 or 4 running on different days, so look out for the black and green of Crownsway Racing.
Yes,
Paul, it is rant time. No intro, nothing else. Let's just get right to it. Paul Halloran, even though it is Memorial Day weekend and we want to try to be happy despite the fact it's, I guess, celebrating a bit of a somber moment, Paul's rant of the week. Here we go.
Well, unfortunately, Howard, I'm going to be along those lines, to be honest with you. You mentioned your nephew, Howard, going to the Marines. Your last day of school, I think you said, was yesterday when I asked you. And it's that time of year, right? And especially at the high school and college level and maybe the middle school. It's graduation time. And I just want to say that as we speak, it's probably just getting over right now at 7:30 tonight. Madison Central High School in Richmond, Kentucky, graduated, and about 500 graduates and one noticeably missing. There was an empty seat with a flower on that seat. The young man was a member of the fishing team at Madison Central, also a member of Future Farmers of America. And I think we know by now we're talking about our good friend, the late, great Cody Dorman. So I just wanted to dedicate my rant, if you will, on really a special day for Cody and the Dormans, graduation day for Cody. And we're thinking of him. We miss him. And it really, I can't wait to get up tomorrow, Howard, God willing, because tomorrow, Friday's the day that I try to dedicate to working on the book all day. It's the honor of my professional life to be working on this story. And I just thought it'd be appropriate as they were graduating to dedicate tonight's rant to Cody.
Absolutely. We love you, Cody. What a great way to end our segment, Paul. We all agree. And every word that you're going to write tomorrow is going to have a little more oomph behind it. Thinking of Cody Dorman, and that just so well said. And yeah, we miss him and love him and love the family. And I'm sure that he would have loved to be there with his friends and whatnot. But what a great life he lived. Paul, we do appreciate that. Before we let you guys go, let's bring on the wonderful from Hawthorne Racecourse, it's Emily Gulickson. Hi, Emily. How you doing tonight?
Hi, good. I've never been called wonderful before. It's always something nicer. Just kidding.
Oh, really? Oh,
I'm going to say you're hanging around with the wrong people, Emily.
Or you're just not wonderful.
Just
maybe you're just not wonderful. What do you? It could be one or the other. Who knows? Maybe. No, I'm just saying you don't know. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. You never know.
Great to see you, Emily.
Nice to meet you, Emily.
Nice to see you as well. Good job. Good job on the first part of the show. I'll try to carry the torch the rest of the way.
No, we know that you're going to do just fine. We did talk about that 5 you mentioned. We appreciate you jumping in early. That's a wide open race. We can't poo-poo anyone in that race.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, I'm like in Santa Anita mode because I was following along, trying to get warmed up for Hawthorne, and it is like a wide open race. So it was more of just, kind of the commentary of like, why didn't this horse appeal more than it being like, oh, here's the horse that I love in this race, right? Just those type of discussions.
No doubt about it. I'm going to go ahead and switch the banner. I'm assuming Emily has 2 monitors, everyone, is why she's looking to her right, I'm guessing, which is totally fine, Emily. You do you.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I know you're not used to being on TV and whatnot, so you're not used to being in front of a camera. Just kidding, Emily.
Hey, Howard, our friend Jim Miller's a baseball player, right? After tonight, they'll be calling him Wally Pip.
Yeah, well, that's very possible because Emily's going to rock it out. Of course, as always, I'm trying to find, now I'm doing a host fail by trying to find the Hawthorne. There it is. The Hawthorne background. There it is. Pete and Paul, we're going to let you go. I want to wish you guys and your family a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully the weather's going to cooperate for you guys wherever you live. And most importantly, the betting windows are going to treat you very kindly. Thanks, guys. Take care, Pete and Paul.
Thanks.
See you, Emily.
You guys have a good weekend.
All right. Emily, Hawthorne Racecourse. I want to say a few things real quick before we get into some particulars. The handle has been fantastic. The support for Hawthorne Racecourse has been great. The field sizes are larger. Turf racing has been going on, not every day that we've had turf racing scheduled, but for the most part. And I'll tell you what, every time I bet Hawthorne, there's prices in there. There's close finishes. The meet's really starting to pick up its vibe. And I just want to throw shout outs and kudos to yourself, Jim Miller, and everyone at Hawthorne for a great quote unquote start to the meet.
It's a really fun meet, and I agree. As a horse player, there's things that you like that are kind of the obvious, right? Like the good takeout, the full fields, competitive nature. Those are all things that I think can get overlooked. I mean, the track plays extremely fair. I do all the notes, which are free. You can get those on the Hawthorne website. And just from a player standpoint, those are the type of races that make it fun to play because you're not having to kind of say, oh, what's the track going to do today? Or, things like that, especially when we talk about these multi-race sequences that you can kind of get locked into, right? And if you're stuck on a closer and all of a sudden it's can't close, it's not a fun feeling. So I appreciate that and the kind words and obviously all the support of everybody that has been playing Hawthorne. Thank you, and we'll keep trying to push it and make it better and better.
Yeah, it's been great. And speaking of Hawthorne, we got the big Hawthorne contest coming up next month, a little over a month from now. I want you to quickly remind our viewers and listeners about the Hawthorne contest at the end of June.
Yeah, you have the graphic up right now, so thank you. That'll help me prompting this. But the Hawthorne contest, these are contests that we run a couple times a year, and they're one-day tournaments. It's a $500 bankroll. There's no entry fee, so you're betting off that $500. It's any type of bet. The tracks that we're going to offer, we offer seats that are showing in there: NHC, BCBC, and that includes the $1 million bonus for the NHC. If you happen to qualify through us at the through these tournaments. And they're just awesome because if you're going to be betting and playing a day of races anyways, you might as well have that extra equity in line, so it's obviously a no-brainer if you live local, because you just drive over to the OTB. But I mean, in terms of people that are coming in and out of town, you can earn tour points as it being a live tournament. And Chicago's just one of those places too that it's pretty easy to get in and out of. There's often a lot of flights and things like that. And when people come in out of town, we get a lot of people from out of town and that come consistently. So it's always great to see people come in, new faces, and you get to meet a lot of people too, which is one of the fun bonuses of the live tournaments in general.
And Emily, I mentioned this last week to Jim. The OTBs in our area, especially the ones that are Hawthorne sponsored, just do a tremendous job. The food's good. I'm not just saying that. I've been to several of them.
They're nice, yeah.
Emily knows that I've been there because she's seen me, and vice versa. The staff is great. It's just really a fun atmosphere. It's like a mini kind of Vegas kind of sportsbook feel.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are newer. They've been upgraded, etc. So anyway, and I will say, and I'm going to follow through on this, I'm going to play in the June 29th one, despite the fact that I have qualified already with 2 entries for the NHC. I did that at Keeneland in the Grade 1 Gamble weekend. I was fortunate enough to have a great weekend, but I can get $1 million bonus. And even if none of that was on the line, look, it's $500. I'm going to spend probably $500 on a Saturday anyway. So why not try to increase a bankroll, have a great day, hang out with good people like Matt Miller and Kyle Roscoe and everyone from our show, and have a good time. So even though I've already double qualified, for those of you that have already qualified once or twice, very few people qualified twice, but whether you qualified X amount of times, it's still worth going out there for a zillion reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. You can earn other tournament credits and things like that, and things like that are along the way. But yeah, the OTBs are really nice, and you mentioned that. So I know like a lot of people kind of get their start by going to the races, and I was kind of the opposite. I kind of got my start by going to the OTBs, so like kind of backwards. And the OTB that I went to in Phoenix was like part of a bowling alley, kind of made, I don't know, a nice part of, not like the nicest part of Phoenix, not like the most dangerous part of Phoenix, but yeah, I mean, nothing compared to, you roll up into Crestwood or the room or things like that. Yeah.
Emily, a quick shout out TC Markham, who was Marine for 8 years. Thank you, TC, for your service. I mentioned, Emily, that I have a nephew. His name is Ethan. He's actually graduating high school tomorrow, and he's enlisting in the Marines and starting his military career in July. So I'm sure you echo the sentiments. Shout out to all of our military and all our vets and everyone who keeps us safe and strong. TC also mentioned sometimes you get bombs at Hawthorne. We've seen a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt about that. Just checking to see last thing. No, we're good. Let's just jump right in. Anything else you want to add? Just jump right into the late pick.
No, let's do it. Dig right in.
Okay, late pick for Saturday, and you can absolutely get prices. Some of the fields are bigger than others, obviously. And whoops, I was going to put up the Equiways, but we're not doing that. We're going right to the Hawthorne website. Here it is. Hopefully everyone can see that. It's a little bit lighter than than we have here, but I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and we'll do some scrolling. We need to go to race 5, actually, correct? Race 5.
Correct.
There we go.
Yeah, starts at
race 5 starts the. I'm not used to scrolling so much, Emily. Apologize. Race 5 starts our late pick for. Are we going to be on turf, Emily? What's your guess? Because I know you sent me some information, and I'm guessing it's a turf racing ? Or could it be something else?
It's a little bit of both. So tomorrow night, I guess we're supposed to get some storms, but it's Chicago. Like they say, it could be storms. It could be it could be nothing. It could be the biggest storms we've ever had. It could be a drizzle for 30 minutes, and it's everything in between. So we really won't know. But let's assume, because it'd just be Friday. It's been pretty warm, that we'd be on the turf. But really, what you're talking about is. So Howard asked me to put together a pick 5, and just from our pick 4, from a kind of principle standpoint, I'm somebody that if I put out a ticket, it's when I'm going to play, right? So I really want to like stand behind my work like all the time. And this, in the pick 4 in general, or any of your multi-race wagers, you're able to get more information up to closer to post time, right? So you're not I'm not the math person, you're the math person. What are we, like, still 72 hours out? You know, things like that. Like
Right.
if it's a surface switch, if it's a scratch, but this race in particular, because this is a race where you have a couple first-time starters, right? And these are two horses, the two first-time starters, number 3, Io Fedro, and number 8, Cupid's War, who are two horses that are going out for barns that are certainly capable. Larry Ravelli, who has a pair in the race, Chris Block. I mean, these are two first-time starters for trainers that can have live runners. And so putting together a pick 4, there's question marks on these runners, right? So leading up to, since this starts off the pick 4, you can get information such as, you know, are those horses taking money in the doubles? You know, are these live first-time starters? Are a little bit cold? So you can start to get information from the board. Then you're going to be able to get even more information because you're going to be able to see these horses in the paddock, right? And especially for this race being 2 turns on the turf, it's, you know, you need a horse from like a physical standpoint that kind of suits that, but also some level of maturity, because that's not the easiest task to go 2 turns first out on the grass, depending on kind of the post as well. So this is a race where I had a hard time putting out a ticket because I could end up using both of those horses. I could end up using one as a single. I could end up using neither of them, you know. So it's a hard point for me to put out a ticket right now, because it's such an area where I'm gonna be flexible based on those 2 horses, whether I'm going to be using them or not, or to what degree, one or the other. I think before I'm like repeating myself too much. Now, as far as the horses that have run, 32%, but only 6% first time starters, but that's still telling you that they're capable. And in this race, there's no monsters in here. You know, this is a race where you would want, you know, a first time starter could certainly jump up. This horse could land in that 6% category. Of the horses that have run, I'm going to lean heavily on, scroll over to the number here, number 6, Giano, which is the other Larry Ravelli runner. This is a horse that is going to make some changes for this race, but they're changes that this horse has actually been kind of looking for or intended for. Even before they made their debut back in November, they were entered a couple times. No, just one time before that, but it was in a $20,000 maiden claiming event. So that just kind of told me right off the bat, before they debuted in maiden special weight company, they kind of thought maybe this horse was maiden claiming runner. The horse had one start, came off the layoff, the circuit switch, ran in 2 maiden special weight races on this circuit, just not quite on the level, but still good races, just not special weight material. Now, prior to that March 23rd race, now that's opening day for our meet, if you guys aren't following along, there was 2 other scratches that were both maiden claiming races that were taken off the turf. So that, again, furthers intent that this is a horse that's maiden claiming horse, that wants the turf, and they're going to find those conditions today for the first time. So there's that intent in there. So I have a horse that's in form, it's fast enough for today's conditions, and intent as far as those changes.
I have the 6. I'm using the pick 4. My only concern is when Ravelli put his better jock on the better horse, which he has on the firster. I don't like playing a lot of, you know, jockey musical chairs, Emily, but with all due respect to, you know, the jock of the 6, I'd rather have David Cohen on the better one. So this is a real tricky situation.
Again, I agree, but that's probably why you're going to maybe get a little bit higher odds. Mm-hmm. And you never know come post time if there's a rider change, you know, something right along those lines. Maybe the horse has been working, or maybe the Uloa's been working the horse in the morning and throwing him a bone.
Yeah, we don't know. Look, it's just maybe
there's things right? that are, but I agree.
We had someone put in the chat some stats. Let me just throw a few things I'm sure you're familiar with. Block, first time on turf first time starter, long on turf the last 5 years, is 3 for 26. Chris Block is an excellent trainer. You and I have known him for a long time, but he usually likes to give him one. But this is made in 20. And Ireland was a nice horse. So I don't really know what, and got Centeno. I'm not sure what to make of that. In terms of the 8, Ravelli is only 1 for 8, Emily, in the last 5 years, with first-time turfers going long. And the horse that did win is a horse you actually are going to know very well, and that's Richie's Got Game, who's a nice horse. So my point here is that if this horse really had talent, I don't think you put him in for 20. So I don't know. This is just a real weird situation. I defaulted to the 9. I'm not proud of it at all, Emily. I'll just say that right now. I don't like 0 for 8s that are 5-2 morning line, but you mentioned drops with Maine Special. This is a big drop. I know it was state bred. I still Louisiana breds, but Righteous Freedom, the 9, had been in open company at Indiana. I still think this is a drop. Mojica, Roussel, blah, blah, blah. Again, a lot of question marks. It's definitely a race. If it's on turf, you want to see the board for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those, like, with the first-time starters, you're going to find faults on every horse in this race, right?
No
on every single one, right? Like, my thing with the 9 is, like, it is a class drop, but it's not too significant, just looking at it in terms of race par and race purse, definitely. But there's a lot of layoff lines in there. There's things that you're just kind of like, it gives room for. So really, that's when this is the type of race that gave me pause for putting out a pick 4, because I need more information that I'm gonna have going into race day, and I think that that's really key for this type of race.
No, it's completely fair, and it's probably unfair for me to throw out a pick 4 ticket to start this kind of leg, but that's how we roll. Race 6, a 1.70 miles. Nice allowance race here. This is a field of 8, and the Moorline favorite, I believe, is the number 3, Blessed Anna, for Arnett and Giles. Let's go ahead and put our picks on the screen. You're going 4-1-5. I am chalking out here 3-5-7. You're going with Julian. Is it Julianne? I believe it's pronounced. 12-1.
Julian.
Yeah, it's a weird.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
For Manley and Centeno, 12-1. What do you like about this one, Emily?
So, I mean, this is another thing, just in terms of, like, fundamentals of the pick 4, right? You have to look at the sequence. So it's like, if there's a favorite in the first leg, there's a favorite in the second leg. You really want to create a reason why you're playing such a bet. So as far as Julianne, yes, it is. There's definitely the value there, but I look at horses like Blessed Anna and Callie Sue, and they're kind of a little bit weaker in terms of class. They ran at this level last out, but it was a lower race par than today's race. Mm-hmm. Blessed Anna is not quite the same level, but it's pretty close just in terms of race par. It's actually kind of a step up in terms of today's purse. So those are things, just like taking a short price. There's question marks. Question marks with Blessed Anna. Had a favorable trip last out, saved ground. Callie Sue ran at this level, ran a good race. It'd probably give her the edge of the 2, making a wide move, and that was her first start on the circuit, but it was an off-the-turf race and slightly higher race par than today. So as far as Julianne, okay, her debut, the debut back on May 30th as a sophomore, that was extremely, extremely, extremely impressive debut at FanDuel. Maiden Special Weight Company just completely gave up. I mean, she could have lost the race at the break, to be honest, but made a big move against the flow, and it was a very taxing effort first out. So then she comes back in 3 weeks and wasn't quite recovered, but number-wise was kind of slightly progressive. They had some intention to run at Hawthorne twice at this level, both times scratched out of those races. Was pretty competitive at FanDuel. Now, keeping in mind, just in terms of the timing, we ended our meet at the beginning of September. So those 2 scratches for Julianne, number 4.
Should we watch a replay and see how they announce it? Anyway, go ahead.
It's so funny. For as many replays as I watch, I always watch with the sound off because I just don't want to be influenced by the voice. But she had 2 scratches on July 30th and August 24th. And then by that time, the meet was over for Hawthorne. So just kind of keep that in mind, that there was intention to run here. She came off the layoff. She's progressive in this third start off the layoff. And I think if she's ever sitting on a top effort, this would be the time. FanDuel's not like it's right up the street. It's a little bit of a drive. So if you're putting a horse in a van, you're coming with intent. Alexis Centeno is riding well. And this is just the type of horse that's such a separator in here that I don't really trust any of the horses that are kind of proven who they are. And if she can jump up and is live in the spot, her best race isn't too far off those other runners, and that was earned as a sophomore, this is a horse I would consider singling. Especially if I was just kind of trying to spread in some other spots. I would take my stand here, and if I'm right, I'm right. And if I'm wrong, I wouldn't have had Blessed Anna on my ticket.
I love the aggression, 8 for 9 in the muddy. I mean, the pedigree says stretching out. I'm a little concerned that they decided, they haven't stretched her out yet in 9 lifetime starts. But again, that's why you're getting a price. So I'm using her underneath. I'm very curious to see how she does. And I also say the time form numbers, which people are familiar with on this show, these bold numbers are better than the buyer numbers. So when I say better, I don't mean the number is higher. The number is always going to be higher, but usually it's a 15 to 20 point jump. And there's a lot of numbers based on time form, Emily, that are better than the buyer indicates. So maybe this horse is faster or speedier than it might appear on paper. Again, I defaulted to Bless Anna. I like her tactical speed. I think she's getting better. Time form has her a good 5 to 10 points consistently better than your 4 and some others. But again, I'm not proud of taking a 9 to 5 morning line 7-year-old in a race in theory that could be more wide open. So I got to be honest with viewers and listeners, Emily, when I'm confident with a pick, I'll let people know. I don't like taking short prices in general unless I feel like they really stick out. I just wasn't sure where to go with this race, to be very honest.
And me being aggressive, I'm hoping that's what people do.
Yeah.
then it's a real separator.
Oh, I love the aggression.
That's how I play. You're not going to hit them all.
Yep.
Even when you have the best opinions, you still don't hit them. So
I hear you. Race 7 is hopefully on turf, 1 mile. Nice allowance race going a mile. This is a big field here, a field as I'm scrolling down. So some of these are on the A. I believe it's a field. Is the main body 10? I'm trying to remember, Emily.
12 and 13 and 14 are ATOs.
Okay. Main body's 12. Main track only's T-Law and Calrissian, who would be live if Calrissian gets in. The morning line favorite, and again, sorry for the scrolling, everyone, is number 6, Battle Scars, for previously mentioned Mr. Block and Mojica, who's been riding well actually in Indiana this week in some nice races. Unfortunately, he got took down by a horse I liked at 5 to 1 earlier this week, but we won't talk about that. Battle Scars is the favorite. Let's go to our picks here in the penultimate leg of the late pick 4. Emily's going 10-1-6. I am again. I don't love the chalk, but just happens to I see what I see. I'm going 6-8-5. Emily, you're going to go with the 10, and the number 10 is Woodcock Flight, an Irish bred for Michael Pudick and Mr. Cohen. And if you're not familiar with the Puich, I believe, if you're not familiar with the trainer, he's actually a very good trainer. He made his name a little bit in the Northwest, I believe, out like Washington area. Solid guy with David Cohen, who's having a very good meet also. What do you like about Woodcock Flight?
Well, Woodcock Flight is just getting significant class relief coming out of the races in Kentucky. I mean, even the Oakland race was a pretty solid race, all things considered. There was really poor weather conditions, raining. It was a wide trip. And then took a big step forward on the Tapeta at Turfway Park on March 7th. Broke slow, had trouble at the start, made a big move. Solid number that day. They were looking for the turf, caught poor weather conditions again at Keeneland, the off track, was chasing a pretty solid pace. That race was was average early and then very fast late. And then I think they just kind of rushed the horse back at Churchill Downs. That 3-week turnaround, we're like, we really want to get this horse on the turf and, let's just take this spot. And that's a higher level. That was a non-winner's a 2. So a different condition than today being a non-winner's a 1. So there's significant class relief across the board. And in that race, it's going to show the 12th place finish. But again, I think there was multiple factors. It was coming in on 3 weeks, probably not that much intent that day. And as the horse started to lose ground, the rider wrapped up. So it's not like, the horse was necessarily beat as much as it shows on paper. And I just think this is probably a better spot, get the horse some confidence, another one that they're shipping in. And again, it's a big change just in terms of the race par, the circuit, those races that the horse is running out of. $120,000.
I'm like trying to interrupt you a second. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but for people who don't know, Optics EQ is a great way to look at races. I'll let you talk about a little bit. We are looking at the time form pace projector, and it's got your 10 sort of mid pack, maybe in a wide spot. What kind of pace projection picture? Hard to say that. Do you see based on Optics EQ, and would you agree with time form in this particular race?
I mean, we're all kind of using the same data. It's just how it's, you can't really change the facts, so to speak. It's just basically on presentation. So fairly similar, sitting mid pack, but again, you have a horse that's had some trouble start, had some weather.
Sure.
Who knows, right? The big class change, the race last out at Churchill Downs. That's going to muddy any pace projection because again, you're going off the data, right? You can't really change facts. So I think today's race shape in general is kind of muddy because you've got horses stretching out, you've got horses coming off layoffs, you've got horses making class changes. So I'm kind of leaning more towards form and class in here, and hoping David Cohen just finds his way, which he's done many times this meet, to rely on him in here. And then, Battle Scars I used as well. Seems a very logical type runner. I'd give him the edge over, say, Magnifique, those two runners coming out of the fairgrounds. The other horse that I think is a little interesting in here is number 1, Dapper Dude. Now, class-wise, they were entered in a claiming race with Cohen aboard last week. When those races were taken off the turf, they scratched to run here instead because they want the grass. But on their best day, he's not that far off Battle Scars and say Magnifique, and is going to be a much bigger price. So I would consider using him as well. That's why I put him in those top 3 selections.
Yeah, the New York bred Dapper Dude was, facing Gigante and the Woodchopper in the winter. I mean, this horse was facing was very highly meant. He just hasn't worked out.
And he had some pretty tough trips in those races.
He did, and I'm guessing they figure that the New York circuit might be too tough for him, which is not ripping on a Hawthorne, but the New York bred circuit's tough. I guess that's why they're here instead of there. Maybe the ownership wants to run, etc. I've got. Oh, okay, that's not a mistake. I want to make sure that I had I didn't see the morning lines yet, so this is a total fuzzy for me. Boone's Path. What I liked is when you go back to the Poly, and the one turf effort was actually pretty good against Harry Hood, who's a nice horse, and BB Voss. I don't know if this horse can run on the turf, but this horse can show speed. It's got Julio Felix, which I like that change. I'm just going with a total fuzzy, Emily. I don't love this.
I don't mind this horse at all. So I can see it.
Again, just sort of
that Barnes that Barnes started out extremely, extremely live. Slowed down a little bit, but capable.
I don't trust my top choice. I don't trust the 10. This is a very tough race, and so I just threw some horses out there. I have got the 5 and 3rd. Anyway, this is a fun race, and it's going to set up the last race of the sequence, which I'm going to get to in just a moment here. The last race, race 8 on Saturdays, we're talking with Emily Gulickson from Hawthorne for the late pick 4, is maiden, claiming it is a dirt sprint, correct? Yes, dirt sprint, correct. 6 furlongs. We got a field of 10 with the morning line favorite. Again, I apologize for all the scrolling. Number 5, Sky Master. This is a mastery. I'm not sure if it's a colt. I think it's a colt, I believe. It could be a gelding. For Ingrid Mason and Olaf Hernandez, here's our picks. Emily's going 7, 5, 2. I'm going 4, 5, 7. So, Emily, you're going to go with my tennis shoes, 8-1, Elias Lopez, Alexis Centeno. I did look at this horse. I think he's interesting at a price. I've got him 3rd. You've got him on top in the finale.
Yeah, the race at the fairgrounds, keying off those sprints back in February 9th, that was a better than looked effort with a horse broke slow, made a big move, and then ran a winning race despite the 3rd place finish in the mud. It was poor weather conditions, had to race in traffic, and then came out to Hawthorne pretty quick after that race, and the 5 furlongs was not ideal, had a messy break that day, and ended up showing run, making a wide move. And following that, they stretched the horse out in distance, which it wasn't, the horse ran fine with the rutted ground. He was just catching a couple horses that were big class droppers. There's no big class droppers in here outside of the 5 who we'll get to. But outside of that, it's a pretty evenly matched group with a lot of horses have been running at this level. So I think he could just catch the right group with that buried form and the rider change. I mean, there's no knock on Hernandez and Reyes, but sometimes just a rider change suggests intent that they're just trying to tweak something, so between the distance, Centeno's riding excellent. He's my top pick in this race. Now, we both have the 5 in the mix. We just can't put that horse on top. And he's such a, it's a tough horse to back, right? Because the debut was for 30, but the connections were very live. And that horse, to me, he ran a top that day. He stayed on as the best of the speed, was no finish, no line, drifting all over the track. You can give a pass for the April 20th race because he was claimed out of there. They stepped him up in class, just wasn't the right fit. But now, I mean, he is at the bottom of the bottom. And there's just, it's that type of drop that they are wanting to just move on from this horse. Now, he could still win this race, but there's just no confidence whatsoever. So if they don't have any confidence, I don't have any confidence. I mean, they could have run for 15.
This is just the red flag of red flags. And
yeah.
I know I'm a math teacher and I've been off school for a full 1 day now. But I do know that 62.5 to 6,250 is 10 times the price. So, if they thought
you have to really key off the 30, right? Because he was claimed for 30, and then they had to run. But even still.
And this is a horse by mastery out of a trap shot mare. I mean, you if they thought anything of this horse, Emily, you and I, if we own this horse, we wouldn't put this horse in for 6,250. We put him for 20 or 25, right? I mean, this is just such a suspicious drop. I totally agree with you. So I had to go with the 4, Send Me Down the Road, who look, 38 buyer, lost by 12 lengths, but was just claimed for Eduardo Rodriguez, who was second in the trainer standings last time I checked last week. I'm not sure if he still is. Has early speed, might be faster than the 5, and I would think you would agree that if the 4 can outbreak the 5, I don't see the 5 sitting off the 4 and going by. I just don't see it because the 5 has no punch. So I'm basically hoping that Send Me Down the Road does exactly that and just wires the field with, frankly, a bunch of horses that are mad and just don't have a lot of form, Emily. So I'm not being overly creative. I just can't possibly take the morning line favorite in this race. I can't.
Yeah, it's tough. And then my knock on the 4 really was if he's gonna get hooked up with the 5, are they both casualties to one another? But they seem like they're kind of the 2 horses that have the form in there. Was there any others? Did I throw in one more? Oh, the 2. I put the 2 in there because if there was a scenario where they do kind of beat each other up, he's one that at least has shown progression at this level and on the drop. Barnes sending out some live runners. He's coming off either a far outside post last out and a wide trip. If there's ever a time in a field, this just might be it. But I feel like I'm kind of grasping at straws.
Yeah, look, it's again for people that might want to, crap on Hawthorne. Every track, I don't care where you are, has lower level maiden claimers. This is obviously not the most talented group. We're not going to try to throw something out there that's obvious, But
they're puzzles, right? They're puzzles.
They're tough. They're big,
and they're harder.
And you're going to get
harder
prices.
Puzzles.
If My 10 Shoes wins at 8-1, Emily, you're going to get paid. So I mean, if you're right. What's the difference between hitting 8-1 in a grade 1 or a maiden 6,250? It's going to pay the same. So, kudos to you, for going that horse. I'm going to use My Tennis Shoes also. Emily, as we wrap up the show, any final thoughts, any promotional things you want to mention? Maybe some stake races coming up. I know Ouvre is a really cool filly that won last week. She's approaching $1 million. What a really cool Illinois bred filly. And then I think Sunday is the Work All Week Stakes, correct? With some real nice Illinois bred males sprinting as well.
The Sunday card, I think the Sunday card is really good, top to bottom. It's another one that I just hope the weather the weather holds. I mean, if it starts to rain, I'm going to fight the sky because that's how good that card is. Like, I will be so mad. It's really good. We are doing a 9-race card that day. But yeah, in addition to that stakes race, which I think is like really competitive, it's kind of one of those races when you first look at it, you might be like, oh, this horse stands out. Oh, wait, Scott Becker's got 3. Which one of the Scott Beckers? And then you start looking at a couple of the longer shots in the race and you're like, well, both these horses, be Aaliyah and Huey Attack, they've both won state-bred stakes races. And then the Jim Watkins runner, Bureau, who he's going to get overlooked because people are going to look at his 0-for-6 Hawthorne record, but he's a different horse now than he was in those races. He's in good form.
Yeah, Sunday card is really good. People need to take a look at it.
I just feel like every race, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities. There's some good full fields. It's really good. Saturday's card is good as well. I mean, we're talking through these races, and I mean, there's definitely opportunities and finds things that you can separate. And again, the win play show 12% takeout is the best.
Awesome.
Just across the board, people should be take advantage of that. It'll make you a good player, a good player. Just be really focusing on value and picking winners, so to speak. And then we also have the place pick 8, which is also another really good wager. It's tough. It's a lot tougher than one would think. Oh, just pick a horse to finish first or second. How hard could it be, right? Only 8 races. It's very tricky. It really will teach you how to hone in on your handicapping skills, but 8% takeout, and there's no carryover now. So a couple times it's paid to 7 of 8.
Wow.
So you don't have to even hit all 8 in order to get paid.
Check out that place pick 8. Check out Emily on X. You can see it on her name tag there, at Emily Optics EQ. You can also go to the Hawthorne website and you can see Emily's picks for the full card, and you can see my late pick 4. Yours truly. You'll see my late pick 4. I've already done the full analysis for Hawthorne for Saturday and Sunday. Also, you can find me on In the Money Media in the Hawthorne blog. I write for In the Money Media, and I cover Hawthorne from first race to last race. I've already handicapped both Saturday and Sunday full cards, and I've sent them out already. And that will be, for those of you that subscribe to In the Money Media, you'll be receiving those as well this weekend. Emily, really appreciate it. I'm going to leave you on this screen as we end the show. I want to wish you and yours a happy Memorial Day weekend. And like I said, hope the weather cooperates, and we hope everyone crushes their bets at Hawthorne Racecourse and, of course, Santa Anita. Take care, everyone. Have a great holiday weekend. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.